Welcome to Community Conversations with State Attorney Bain, your talk show for insights on the criminal justice system, community issues, and public safety in Orange and Osceola counties. Join State Attorney Andrew Bain as he dives into the issues that matter most to you, keeping it real every step of the way.
All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Community Conversations with me, State Attorney Andrew Bain, trying to bring us full circle for a minute in this episode to kind of lock in on some of the things that we've been talking about on this show for the last few months and try to narrow down some of the things that I think are going to be critical for our community going forward. And one of the things that I've been asked a lot about over the last couple months is, what is the biggest threat to the criminal justice system? What is the thing that is the biggest threat? And some people give some really political answers to that question, but really the biggest threat that I've found is the lack of the continuum of care for the people that we have in our system, especially those that are dealing with both mental health and substance abuse, those dealing with trauma. There's a serious lack of continuum of care amongst how we address those issues. Not just we're dealing with defendants, dealing with victims, especially when we're dealing with our kids and small children. And so there's some great resources that we have in our community that address some of those issues. But I think as a circuit, again, because we cover two counties, both Orange and Osceola County, as a circuit, there's so much more we can do to advance the conversation, to get people connected to the resource that they need to really go for the goal of building that strong, resilient community that you hear me talk about on this show very often. But before we get there, before we get to that point, it is October. We started the month to talk about domestic violence. So I want to continue to talk about domestic violence. On tomorrow, that is October 24th, from 11:30 to 1 p.m. in downtown Orlando at the Orange County Courthouse. That's 425 North Orange Ave at the Orange County Courthouse. We're going to have a domestic violence event for the community. You can come out if you're downtown on your lunch break or you're riding through. Come out to downtown. Come learn about the resources that are available for domestic violence. Come learn and hear from some survivors and some people that are that are affected vicariously by domestic violence. Domestic violence is a pervasive thing that happens in our community. It's something that is so dangerous, but it's something that is kept quiet all the time. And people suffer in silence. They think they're doing it for their kids. They think they're doing it for their pets. They think they're suffering through this because of somebody else. They think that the person they're suffering because they love that person. And I love Harbor House's slogan this year: love should not hurt in that manner. Love does have, because of up and downs, there are going to be some emotional things that come around with when you love somebody. But love shouldn't take away who you are as a person. And unfortunately, today I attended the funeral of Lieutenant Ella Shea, and it was something that I've had to do too often in the last couple months. That's the second Orange County Sheriff deputy that we have lost in the last couple months. Chris Dillon committed suicide, but Lieutenant Shea was a beautiful, beautiful soul. If anybody had an opportunity to meet her, she was full of life, full of brightness. She has a daughter around the same age as my youngest daughter, and we kind of connected with that a couple years back when she was pregnant with her. And she was a wonderful person, and she was a victim of a domestic violence homicide. And domestic violence homicides are some of the most tragic cases that come through our office. We're not going to get into many of the details about her case because it is a case we're prosecuting actively right now. But when one, especially intimate partner violence occurs, we have children involved, both for those children lose both parents in a day. In one incident, both parents are taken away from those children, and it's some of the most tragic things that we see. Hopefully we have a family that steps in and takes care of the children. They don't end up in foster care. I remember when I first started this job, we had a case of called State versus Placide. And Mr. Placide committed a very gruesome homicide in front of his children by almost decapitating his wife. And the jail calls and the conversations that he was trying to have with his son after he did this act in front of the children were kind of some of the most haunting conversations I remember listening to. And it was he was still trying to control, still trying to be in power, still trying to manipulate the children. And when the oldest son amongst the 5 kids was the adult, and ended up having to basically put all his future aspirations aside, put everything aside so that he could take care of his siblings. And both parents are gone. His mom is gone. That sibling's mom is gone. That child's mom is gone. And then his father is doing life in prison for that homicide. And it's something that's so tragic, and it's something that we can together as a community, I believe, work to make better, to end the cycle of violence, end the cycle of trauma related to domestic violence. Because it doesn't just affect the victim or the individual that is subject to domestic violence. It affects the children. It affects unborn babies. If you look at some of the science related to that, and it's something that we as a community can stand up for. We cannot be silent about. We can speak out about. We can call some of our local shelters, whether it's Harbor House. You'll hear from Stand Up Survivor tomorrow. You will hear from a couple other people that have experienced or were some of the people that were left behind after the domestic violence homicide. Nearly half of the homicides that we had in 2023 in Orange County were related to domestic violence. We ended the year with Shakira Rucker going missing and finding out that Corey Hill had been the subject and the one that we're prosecuting for that homicide. And so it is beyond important. It is beyond just something to put on a slogan or say, see something, say something. We have to actively choose to be involved in making sure that we are getting to a solution and making sure that we are doing everything possible to support our victims, support our survivors, support their children, support the pets, all of that, because it is something that creates a safer community. And so which leads me to my first guest today. You're going to hear from 2 people. One is going to be my good friend, Mr. Pernell Bush, mental health counselor extraordinaire from out of Sanford, my fellow hog hunter and a good friend. And he always brings a reality to mental health. He's going to let him talk about a new grant that he got to help people in Orange County, especially those that are underserved and can't afford counseling. And then you're going to hear from Anna Wilson, who is another person I met along this journey of becoming a state attorney. She does amazing work with our kids in our community and families. She does amazing work with families in our community and trying to make sure that we're building strong, resilient families in our community. And I want to have her talk a little bit about what the Advocacy Center for Children do for our community, and as well as what they do for the criminal justice part of what I do, and what they do for the prevention part of what I believe in early intervention we can do so much better, and we can again reach that goal of building that resilient society and community. And that is what we wanted to have every single day. So let's get it on with my guy, Nell.
What's going on? Hey, John, I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited about having this conversation today.
I'm always excited to talk to you, my friend. We always have great conversations, and I'm always looking forward to definitely getting some deeper understanding, mental understanding. So you're not a mentalist, but we're almost there. We're almost to that point.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so let's tell the people a little bit about that don't know about what you do for No Limit, how it came about. I think we started kicking it off like right when you opened your doors, like basically like within like the first week or something. Like then we had a conversation about what you were doing. So tell about where we started and then kind of where we are now.
Definitely. So, once again, I appreciate you having me on. Once again, I'm Pernell Bush, everyone. I am a clinical psychotherapist or a licensed clinical social worker as well. Here at No Limit Counseling and Education is our organization name, and our mission is to promote mental health wellness. So that's your social, emotional, psychological wellness, and we do that in a multitude of ways through programs, services, advocacy, and outreach. For us, I always say you want to approach mental health in a non-traditional manner. So we always try to do outreach in ways that I seen that wasn't happening, particularly for different underserved communities and distressed communities and social economic challenged communities. So we're inside the schools, we're inside the community centers. We put on different events where we're trying to make sure that we are present with our community members. But right now, I'm very excited because we just got a grant for Orlando Health, and this grant is going to be very beneficial to a lot of our community members. So we wrote a grant because we kept running into the same problem. One of the problems that we ran into was individuals not having the funds to get quality mental health services. Even those who may have Medicaid or Medicare, it became a challenge. So for us, it's like, hey, how can we fill that gap and do something that could possibly be beneficial? So we were able to write a grant for Orlando Health, and they were able to grant it to us to be able to provide mental health services to up to 50 youth within the community who may not have the means to receive the quality mental health services that they deserve to have. So overall, when it comes to mental health in our youth, I believe I have a very firm belief that the earlier we can reach them, the better. Even if it's just creating a space for them to talk. I tell my clinicians, hey, be slow to diagnose, but quick to open your heart, right? The reason we need to be slow to diagnose, but quick to open your heart, because sometimes some of those symptomologies that we think our children are having is because they don't have a space to just speak freely and have what we call psychological air. And you'll probably see if they get an opportunity just to open up and speak freely and not feel like they're being judged or being chastised or in trouble. You start to see some of those symptomologies start to decrease, where they may not even have a mental health diagnosis. They just need a space to sit down and speak freely.
Yeah, I get it, man. I think that's one of the things I think some people misconstrue about what I do sometimes. So I have a Turning Pages juvenile literacy program, and some people think it's about reading words on a page. It's not about reading words on a page. It's about providing a way for this child to communicate that they did not have before. About providing them language and words, which takes us, you just look at evolution, like how we were as a human species when we developed, writing and words and different things. We became more organized. We were able to do more things. We were able to build cities and communities. And if we're not providing those same skills to our kids, I really truly believe that we're doing them a disservice. And we're violent people if we can't communicate. I don't know, what do you think of it? Is the mental health, psychology behind that? But that's what I see out there. Where
you're hitting on the head, right? When it comes to having a space that you're able to communicate in different ways. So, like I said, when it comes to mental health, I'm very big about making sure we break it down. And like I say, for us, mental health is your social, emotional, psychological. So you're creating those social opportunities for them to actually be able to communicate with those in a healthy manner, which will probably help them regulate their emotions a lot better. And then psychologically, you probably won't be as distressful as they were psychologically, which will decrease the chances of onset. Right. So we have to look at the human being from a holistic standpoint. Oftentimes when I go out and speak and, people talk about mental health, the first question I always ask, so when you say mental health, what does that mean to you? Right. Well, that's your brain. I say it's a lot more than that. Yeah. Right. And what you just stated right there, even just through the literacy program, them having an opportunity to communicate in a different form and different manner is something that might be beneficial to them. I created a program once upon a time called Flow Detox. And I created Flow Detox for my boys, for my adolescent boys. So No Limit, we work with adolescents and adults. But I realized I kept running through the same thing with my adolescent boys and a lot of my adult men. Because for us as men now, we weren't really taught how to talk about our emotions and all that stuff. Like I always said, between birth to 18 years old, there was never a time I went to my homeboys like, hey, man, I'm sad today. There was never a time. They would have clowned you and told you.
We got to go back in the house after that, man.
Right. There was never a time. But when I realized, like a lot of young men, we aren't conditioned, or we aren't even designed a program to speak like that. So I created Flow Detox, and Flow Detox was a 6-session program where we utilized the art of hip hop and poetry. So instead of you speaking, I want you to bring in a song that may connect to an emotion that we're going to talk about, or connect to a thought or feeling that you may be experiencing. So you don't feel like we're directly talking about you, but we're talk about what you may be experiencing through this song or emotion through this song, and you're able to say, man, I identify with this because, right?
Yeah.
But like I say, for us as men, I always try to find different ways for us to be able to speak freely and more confidently, because we weren't conditioned to do so. Like I tell people, if it wasn't for my education and my training, I don't know if I'll be able to speak on my emotions the way that I do now.
Yeah, well, I will just give them a little background. So, I mean, you're from Sanford.
Born and raised in Sanford, Florida. Bo Key, if you really know us, but born and raised in Sanford, Florida. I tell people, my upbringing was very unique. All right, so my father had me outside of his marriage. My mother is a returning citizen, so she was incarcerated. So I say, I always say I was born from a sperm of adultery and the egg of a felon. And I say, from conception, I feel like my life was supposed to be hell, right? But at the end of the day, I tell people I appreciate my journey, because even with my mother and father I had, neither one of them raised me. My godparents raised me. I was able to experience things that when I was a child, I thought it was going to be detrimental, but it actually creates a space for me to be more open, transparent, and real and authentic, and have empathy for those who I encounter. Right. So I was a second-team All-State football player at Lake Mary High School. I thought that was going to be my route, going football, right? But I was hard-headed. I got in some trouble my senior year, where I was arrested 2-3 times my senior year. Ended up losing football scholarships. And I was sitting down on the couch with my girlfriend at the time, who had a 4.2 GPA, right? And this young lady can go to any school she wanted to go to. She looked at me like, what are you about to do with your life? Because I'm not going to be here.
About that.
Right. So, when she said that, I said, man, I'm hold the keys to your car. I took the keys of the car, and I drove to our nearest recruiter's office at the time, which is by the Sanford Mall. And I end up enlisting United States Marine Corps. Now, when I went there, I didn't know anything about the Marine Corps. I didn't know what a Marine was. I'm not for this. People, I love the Marine Corps, but I ain't know. All I knew was the Army, right? Everybody else, I know soldiers, right? So I tried to go to the Army, though, but they were closed. I tried to go to the Navy, they were closed. The only door was open that night was United States Marine. And I told them, I said, don't talk to me. Give me the papers. I'm going to sign. So that night I signed. I enlisted to go to the United States Marine Corps, where I did 4 years as an infantry rifleman, 2 combat tours Iraq, then also humanitarian relief in Haiti during the 2010 earthquake, and came back home to help raise my younger siblings, and jumped into school. Had no idea what I wanted to do. If you asked me if I was going to be a therapist some years ago, I looked at you like a therapist. I want to talk to you about your emotions. But I love what I do now. And that's just a piece of my story. And I love to come back and talk about it fully on another segment.
We always need to chop it up and get it back to it. But I want to get, because I think that people think about peaceful professionals, especially professional Black men, there's not a story there. There's always, and so there's always a story. There's always something that we can share that can connect, especially with the kids that we mentor. I'm a big mentor. I tell everybody, one of my mentors is actually here with me. So my mentees, I'm sorry, sitting in, but we had to share about who we are, where we came from, the circumstances that kind of rose to get us here. Because I think we live in a social media world sometimes where people feel like, well, when that happened, as soon as you posted it, like, you got that job. Like, as soon as you posted it, you knew, God brought you that job.
Right. No, understand the journey it took to get there, right? The journey.
It was all the long nights and the stressing out and all the stuff like that. And all the things you sacrificed to get to that point, and then it's like, oh, Now we got Purnell, no limit. Well, you a mental health counselor, you a therapist.
Yeah. You just woke up like this, huh?
Yeah,
You just
woke up.
Yeah,
just woke up like a therapist. And
I want to say I appreciate you having me on. And like I said, when it comes to the grant, want to definitely give a major shout out to Orlando Health for seeing the importance of the program that we rolled out. So this grant is, like I say, once again, to help cover the cost for individuals who may not have that means to get the quality service that they desire. So if you have anyone, or if you are someone that may need of it, please give our office a call at 407-906-0139, or you can email us at intake@nlcounseling.org. And also you can find us online at nlcounseling.org, and we'll be more than happy to do our best to meet your needs.
All right, give it one more time for the people that just kind of heard it and then wasn't really listening.
Definitely.
One more time so they can make sure.
Reach our office at our phone number is 407-906-0139. You can reach us online at nlcounseling.org, and you can email us at intake@nlcounseling.org. And like I said, we want to have to try to attempt to meet your needs.
That's my brother. All right, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir.
We'll definitely get back together soon. We'll do a deep dive.
Yes.
Mental health session, especially mental health in the minority communities, and the importance of talking about. I've been talking about PACEs and all that kind of stuff in the past, like since I started the show. I think within about a week of starting the show, we were already talking about those type of things.
Cases and ACEs, man. Yes, sir.
Those are the things that are gonna. I'm convinced that we look at our kids, especially look at our youth, look at our communities, and if we don't start taking hard looks at the adverse traumas that we put our kids through, whether it be environmental, communal based, familial, and or inside of that child, we're not going to be able to see the change that we want to see. So that's where we're going to get there, Brother Bush. We're going to get there one day. I'm going to see it. I'll be definitely old and gray by then, but I think we're definitely going to get there by then.
Definitely. I'm here on the movement with you. So whatever you need from me, I'm here to serve.
I appreciate you, my brother.
Talk to you soon.
All right. So we're going to jump in to my next good friend, Miss Wilson, from Orlando Health. This is where they're based out of, and we talk about, and this is the same conversation. So we just talked to Purnell about the mental health with the adolescent stage, so and then the young man stage. But we got some tools in our tool belt to deal with our kids at a very super young stage. So when you heard me talking about the domestic violence, how it affects unborn children, we have a tool to help deal with before the baby is even here. And Ms. Wilson and her team is a part of making that happen. So welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much, State Attorney Bain. We are so excited to be participating in this. And yes, I ditto everything that Mr. Purnell said, because it is very true.
Yeah.
I work with many different families, diverse, fortunately and unfortunately, the families that you work with in the state attorney's office. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about both the Child Advocacy Center and then how we can prevent families from ending up at the Child Advocacy Center,
right,
which is the Healthy Families Program. And it all does really come down to what Mr. Bush was saying, is about mental health, stability, resilience. So the Child Advocacy Center is a place that is safe for our families and our children who may have been affected or affected by abuse or neglect. And what we found out was, and this was quite a few years ago, not going to tell my age, but a little bit older than you, Mr. Bain, but yes, but I still couldn't get the job done. In 1999, what we determined was we needed a child-friendly, family-friendly place for families to come to receive an assessment, to get therapy, to get advocacy, who have unfortunately had to deal with abuse or neglect, sexual abuse, physical abuse, any kind of trauma. So we brought together the three programs: the Child Protection Team, a program called the Healing Tree, which provides therapeutic services to children who are physically and sexually abused. And we also brought together the Child Advocacy Program. Those are going to be our team members who are going to help our families walk through these processes. And I know this is not, it's a very heavy topic, but without these services, our families are sometimes lost. They need resources, they need assistance. And the basic part of what we do is we're going to help reduce that trauma. It's going to allow our families to be able to move through this process because, I had to laugh when you and Mr. Bush were speaking about, we didn't talk about our feelings. That's not just a male thing. That's also a African-American Black thing. It's like, well, Mom, I'm upset today. You'll be all right. So we can't do that anymore. We have to be able to deal with what is going on in our families in order to heal and to make our community stronger in the long run. And that's a lot of what the Child Advocacy Center does for our families. And making sure that they are connected to resources, making sure they're getting the support they need. It could be something as simple as doing pet therapy with a child to help them to be able to deal with the trauma that they've gone through. Yeah. So that's just the beginning of what the Child Advocacy Center does.
Yeah, and so I want to break it down for the people a little bit. All right, so if you have a young mother, so I'm talking to anybody on the sound of my voice as a pastor, a teacher, a godparent, an auntie, grandparent. I'm talking about all these people, right? And you look at this child that's having this baby. I want you to talk about, especially teenage children that are having babies. We'll talk about them. And we know that child is not emotionally equipped to handle that situation as a parent. They are not ready to be a parent.
So
we got to talk to Miss Wilson. So tell them how that happens and why they should be talking to you and your team about that situation.
Yes. Well, not that I'm biased, but I am. Healthy Families, it's actually under Healthy Families Florida, under the Arnold Palmer Children Hospital for Children. And we are a service that is actually going to prevent child abuse and neglect. When we see that young woman and young man, because we do expect the dads to participate as well, or whoever is going to be responsible in that fatherhood role, what we do is we will look at the risk factors that are involved in this person's life. It could be something not simple, but it's a little bit more simple, that they may not be in school. So we're going to get them in school because you need that backing to help you do better in life. But we're looking at risk factors such as, do you have a place to go when you have that baby? Once you have that baby and the hospital says you have to be discharged, where are you going? Did you get prenatal care? Because especially with our Black and brown women, that is so, so important. Because if you don't get that care, if you don't get get your body back into the shape that it needs to be, or to be able to even carry that child to full term, that's going to cause more trauma, which can then lead to more trauma and neglect in the family. So when you are looking and you find out you're pregnant, one thing I always say with our program is, when you find out you're pregnant, there's usually two reactions. There's, oh, I'm pregnant, and there's like, oh, I'm pregnant. So we're just, I know some people out there went, yeah.
You're a little bit pregnant, huh?
Yeah, just a little bit.
A little bit pregnant.
Yes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you as an individual and see where you're at. Do you know about developmental milestones? Do you know what resources? Do you know how to get health insurance, either through your job? Do you have things such as Family Medical Leave Act? There's a lot of our families that we work with that work part-time, so they don't have coverage while they're out of work. So we're going to basically encompass that family, encompass that young lady. So let's speak to a teen mom, not in school, pregnant, doesn't know what to do. She's experiencing abuse and neglect as well, which then if we look at the generational cycles, then she can then abuse and neglect her child. So we're going to stop and we're going to have a conversation with her and say, where are you at? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Once we do that, we're then going to take the things that we find that she may want to work on, or could be risk factors that we know that are research-based through the adverse childhood experiences and ACEs that could cause her to abuse or neglect. We're then going to take this amazing person and they're going to go into the home. Our services are voluntary and free. So we cannot force you to take our programs. You have to choose to want to do better for you and your family. And then what we do is we look at those risk factors and we're going to say, hey, this is what happened to you in the past. How are we going to negate those things? We're going to bring in curriculums to make sure that if you don't know how to positively discipline your child, because positively disciplining is very different from punishing. You're going to give your child options. You're going to give them choices, and they'll look at us and like, no, they're going to listen to what I'm going to say. You can try that, but we'll kind of try to bring it back around. Is that what happened to you? Well, yeah. Did it work? Well, no.
All right. So are we talking about this gentle parenting situation? Is that what we're doing? Because we're gonna get some adverse reactions, especially from the minority community about this gentle parenting, because they go out and you see that gentle parent and you see that kid and you're like, ooh, look at that kid. So tell them what the difference is of what you're talking about, positive discipline versus what people have experienced as what I think has been classified now as a gentle parenting.
Gentle parenting. Yes, this is not gentle parenting. This is, how do we provide consistency to our children? How do we provide positive discipline to our children so that they're going to know right from wrong? It's not about letting the child run the home, as a lot of our parents will tell us, like, they are not going to run my house, Miss Anna. No, they're not going to run your house. What we're going to do is give you options to give to them. So you get two choices. Are we going to do A or are we going to do B? That is not gentle parenting. That is you making a good decision so we have a good day for the rest of the day. So that is very different. Whereas gentle parenting might be more, let them be free and let them, do what they need to. If you are all doing that in the household, nothing's going to get done. We need the person who's in charge, which is the parent. And then we need you to be able to not continue that generation of harshness. And that could be through abuse, that could be through yelling, that could be through, choosing or targeting one child over another. So that's what we're trying to negate with how we do our program.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I am trying, I'm always trying my hardest to find ways to connect our community with this resource. So we're going to tell them how to contact you all, and then we're going to do it at the end a little bit. So we'll have 2 times so people can reach this important resource.
Okay. Well, we are the Healthy Families Orange and Osceola, part of Healthy Families Florida. And as I said, we are under Arnold Palmer Hospital. So you can reach us through the Healthy Families website, Healthy Families Florida website. You can reach us through the Arnold Palmer Hospital's the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families, or you can reach out to me directly, and that is going to be through anna.wilson@orlandohealth.com, or you can call our main number 407-649-9595, and our eligibility is very simple. We need you to be pregnant, and we need you to have a child that's up to 3 months. Now, unfortunately, due to funding, we do only serve certain zip codes, but I do my absolute best that if you're even this close to where we serve, we're still going to try to bring you in. And our whole purpose is to support you, give you resources, and to ensure that you and your family are safe and that you are building resilient children for Orange County in the future.
Right. And so that's both. So you serve both Orange and Osceola County, right?
Yes, sir. And then we are actually in every single county in the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So
We'll talk about our people first.
yes,
I'm always looking out for my people first. So
yes. Oh, so
all the people that live in Orange and Osceola County, we need to take up this resource.
Yes.
And so, my next big kind of group people targets are I call them like the grandparents that have the kids, anyways. So, if you're a grandmother, you babysitting some kids right now while you're listening to me, or you're on your way to babysit some kids, and you got a group of them, reach out to Ms. Wilson, reach out to the Children Advocacy Center. They will have a tool for you to help you whether it's your daughter, granddaughter, niece, whoever it is, to again, build a healthy family. Healthy families are a foundational support system that affects our criminal justice system. And if you don't believe me, you can ask ChatGPT, do a Google research. It's not hard to find the connection between having a strong, resilient support system at home and somebody being caught in the criminal justice system. And is it 100% thing? No, people. You're gonna have families that's gonna have one person in that family that for some reason we maybe have to do some deeper dives. That's gonna go where everybody else is not going. Everybody else is gonna go left, making positive, amazing life choices, and they for some reason they're gonna get involved with something and make a right, and they're gonna end up in one of our courtrooms. So it's not about eliminating the process, but it's about doing as much intervention as possible to where when it does happen, everybody's like, "What happened to you?" and we can act in an appropriate way. So that's the goal. And so, all right. So we're supposed to talk to the people about. We'll back up a little bit because I jumped right into my most favorite part of it, the healthy families part of it. But talk about, because you said CPT. What does CPT stand for? And kind of, what does that do for me as in my official role as a state attorney?
The child protection team, and I apologize, switch over here real quick. The child protection team is the team that actually does the forensic interviews for children of alleged, we're gonna say alleged, abuse or neglect, because we also don't want to accuse anybody wrongly. So this is such an amazing team. And what the child protection team is, they're the medically dedicated program offering the expert evaluation of alleged abuse and neglect. It's a multidisciplinary team, so it's not just one person or one set of people. It includes social workers, medical professionals, psychologists who are going to assess the allegation, assess the risk factors of each case individually. What we're going to then do is we're going to supplement the child protective investigators with the law enforcement investigations. And we provide services that are provided by this team are medical evaluations, the forensic interviews, which does entail recording a fact-finding interview with the child by themselves if they are able to do so, multidisciplinary staffing, psychological evaluations. We also have to interview the caregivers, and then we have emergency services for them, because a lot of times children will come in and sometimes they need shoes, they need clothes. So we're going to provide that to them. And then we also provide for Orange County and Osceola, we provide training for professionals. So if you're just not sure, what am I looking for? What does abuse look like? A lot of people don't know that. We have a wonderful training department that will come out and train you on what to look for. So it is such an integral part of working with the state attorney's office, because what we're going to help you do is, again, and not to get too, this is one of the things that I have to always be careful how I say it. And one of my friends said it best: if you didn't do anything to your child, I'm going to prove it. But if you did do something to your child, I'm going to prove that as well. And we're going to get the state attorney's office the information that they need in order to prosecute if needed.
All right, sounds good. All right, I'm trying to break this down. So when a report of abuse whether it's sex abuse, physical abuse comes out. Many of us in our communities are what we call mandatory reporters. So I'm a mandatory reporter. So if I know that a child is being abused, I should know the child is being abused. I'm going to have there's a threat that the child is going to be abused. I need to report it. And no different than for different crimes, things like that. So elder abuse and children, those things that I have to report to law enforcement. But once a report is made, I receive reports as well. So we receive reports at the State Attorney's Office that we then turn over to other law enforcement partners, including DCF and other agencies. Once that report's made, kind of walk the people through kind of what happens when it hits your desk as a CPT team for this, like, the area.
The first thing they're going to do is the supervisors are going to look at this case. They're going to then assign it to one of the staff members, and they're also going to then do staffings. Their job is then to contact the, depending on which law enforcement department it is, they're going to contact them. Prior to that happening sometimes, though, we also then have to bring them in for the forensic exam. So all of the players who are involved are going to meet at the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families and or Arnold Palmer Hospital or the other local hospitals as well, children's hospitals, and they're going to start gathering information. They're going to do the exam. They're going to talk to the caregivers. They're going to get as much possible information as possible. They're going to, depending on how egregious the harm is to the child, they're going to stabilize the child, make sure that they're safe. If it's even putting them in, protective, care while they're at the hospital. And then at that point, that's where we really start gathering more and more information. That's when the whole multidisciplinary team comes together, and they are then going to basically ensure that justice is served. They're going to assign them a child advocate who's going to work with the family and support them throughout the whole court process. They're going to also provide them the healing tree therapeutic services. Now for that one, that is therapeutic counseling, and it can only be the child who has been abused and the non-offending caregiver. So it cannot be the offending caregiver or alleged caregiver. And then, of course, we're going to provide them medical providers and a case coordinator to walk them through that whole forensic interview process.
And so it's a medical examination. Usually there's or not. So when I say medical examination, there's a physical, like where they're looking at the child, checking the health of the child. We're encountering a little bit too many drug-related instances with children, when finding access to fentanyl and different things like that because of the residue and stuff. So there's all types of things that happen in these forensic interviews. But if something happens, does it automatically mean that the case is going to get referred to my office, though?
It doesn't automatically mean it will be. What we do is we're going to provide all of the information in those staffings. And then normally what then happens is the law enforcement agency is going to determine if there's enough evidence to then refer it to your office. And then that's when the prosecution state will begin. Unfortunately, there's just times where there's not enough information at the time. That's why we will keep looking and investigating and say, there's something here. We also work hand in hand with the law enforcement agencies because our staff is trained to see things that other people might not necessarily see. But we have amazing law enforcement agencies here locally, so they are also trained in this. And I know working with them one-on-one, we have people who are like, no, something is not right. And that's where we come together, because our team may be able to get information that they may not be able to, and vice versa. So we're kind of like pit bulls in a sense that we're not going to let it go until we find out everything possible that we can.
Everything that's going on.
Yes, exactly, to protect this child.
Yeah, and that is one of my big things. I am going to do as much as I can possibly to make sure we're protecting our children against these known dangers at this point. And there's a rehabilitative part of the situation as well sometimes. So I want people to understand that the system revolving around our children, the standard the legal standard is something called the best interest of the child. And when I was a prosecutor the first time, and then when I was a judge, one of the things that we kind of got involved with sometimes were something called shelter petitions, where after an evaluation by this team, after other investigations by the Department of Children and Families, it became the best interest of the child to shelter that child away from the abusing or the offending parent. And sometimes it's both parents. Sometimes it's just separating them from one parent. And the orders that go into place, putting those things in place, and separating those two individuals. There's a dependency process, which is different from delinquency. So you think about delinquency, you think about kids committing crimes. Dependency, on the other hand, is looking at whether the child has been abused, abandoned, or neglected. And if that child has been abused, abandoned, or neglected, and it's the best interest of the child, we're going to do whatever that is, whether that's treatment, requiring treatment for the parent, whether that's at some point terminating parental rights. And then we did end up, we had a few episodes a little while ago where we had my good friends from Redemption Homes. They run a foster care program, and the kids will start being processed through those type of programs to make sure that the child is being looked after while the rest of the case is pending and or after the case has been terminated. And it's not the most perfect process. It sounds good on paper, but any system designed to where the state is going to be raising a child is not the most ideal situation. And that's the reason why, back to our first beginning of the topic with Ms. Wilson, healthy families are the key to the situation, because if we could have prevented that abuse and abandonment of that child or neglecting of that child if we would have put the proper tools in place before the child was born or shortly after the child was born. We could have safeguarded that child from being abused, abandoned, or neglected. And that's a full circle type situation that we talk about in the types of programs at the Advocacy Center. And so, can you tell me a little bit more about? Because we said, well, I focus on what I want to focus on, but you said under healthy families, there are all these other programs that are there as well. Can you tell the people a little bit about those programs?
Yes, we have many partners in the community, and that's what's important, because it literally is going to take everyone to come together in order to support our families. And what we do is, with Healthy Families, we do have, of course, capacity. If needed, we do have other programs such as Healthy Start, which is up to the Department of Health. We have Early Head Start, which is through Children's Home Society, and they all provide home visitation for the families. And they're looking at the same thing that we're looking at. What kinds of things do you need wrapped around you in order to provide the resources and resiliency that you need for our families? So therefore, of course, we're always going to advocate for our services, because we do serve families from, as I said, prenatally all the way up through 5 years old. But if we can get a helping hand from the other services who are also going to come alongside the families, they're going to provide curriculum. They're going to make sure that they know the developmental milestones, because that's also an extremely big issue, is that if you do not know that your child has developmental delays or has a disability, you can be treating that child as quote unquote normal when there's special things that you have to do with that child. And that's where we have the early steps of Central Florida that we can refer our families to for them to get assistance. That child might have autism, that child may not be able to hear, and they don't know that. And we're going to make sure they get those services, because if that parent is getting frustrated and not understanding their child, they can abuse or neglect them. We also have the Teen Express mobile unit, who goes to different, I almost said junior highs, I'm dating myself, middle schools. Middle schools. Oh, I almost said that. Okay. You're laughing a little too hard, but middle schools and high schools. Yeah, everybody just knows how old I am now. And they will provide a free medical home. And in that medical home, it's nutrition, it is mental health, and it is medical. Because again, if we do not give our children the building blocks that they need to be healthy, and unfortunately, some of our children are out there trying to take care of themselves and their siblings, they're not going to have that foundation that they need to be a strong person and keep them out of the criminal justice system. And then, of course, we have many other programs, such as Mr. Bush's program that we refer to for therapeutic services. We ourselves, Healthy Families, can provide free mental health services for the families that are in our program. We do parent support groups. We will refer them to other social groups, support groups, local churches, anywhere that we can strengthen our families. And we have to do this as a united front. We can't have any of that turf guarding, which is one of my pet peeves. This is not about us. This is about our families. This is about our community. If we don't make a strong community, think about what our future is going to be like. And that's why we have prevention programs such as Healthy Families. Because if we can prevent things that can come into your life that can cause instability, we can then build stronger and more stable families so that you can go out and get a job. Something as simple as, which a lot of us don't think about, getting a driver's license. So you don't have to take the bus and wait 5 hours round trip to get to work, where you can maybe just get to work in 30 minutes and be able to drop your child off and be a little bit less stressed that morning. So those are the other agencies that we use. And again, just as you said, I'm going to promote what I like, which is us. But we really do try to work with everybody, and we can work in tandem with agencies. So we're not out here by ourselves. We know we can't do it all. We need everyone to come together and wrap themselves around these families.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. I agree that the more we can collaborate, work together, and what you call like the turf wars. I call it silo work. We do people do amazing work in silos. I mean, they'll be one neighborhood doing some really good thing, but then you literally take them a couple thousand feet one direction, not even a mile away. The same problem exists, but we're not reaching those kids that are like, those families. It's just a mile down the road. Exactly. And so we have to be cognizant about how we decide to work together. And I think that we need to work with the idea that we're going to work on a mission of, for me, I always talk about building a safer community, building, a more resilient community, and that's a more healthy community, because that's really where we need to be as we move forward and what we decide to do. All right, I think I have one more thing for you. I'm getting a little too excited because all right. Well, while I'm thinking about it, give them the information one more time on how they can connect with the Advocacy Center, the Howard Phillips Advocacy Center, and they can get all the resources that they need.
Yes. So for the Howard Phillips Center for Children and Families, you can go onto the Arnold Palmer Hospital website, or you can call 407-317-7430. For Healthy Families, you can call 407-649-9595, or you can email me directly at Anna with 2 N's, .Wilson, I forgot to say that earlier, at orlandohealth.com. And we will definitely, and even if you don't think that you might be eligible, please call us, because our job is also to give you resources. It's not just about getting you to join our program. It's also to make sure that you have the right services you need for your family. So they can reach out to either of those numbers or websites to try to get us.
No, that's exactly what we need to do. All right. So again, I'm talking to specific groups of people right now. You're listening to me. Yes. And you're listening to Ms. Wilson. And you know somebody that's having a baby, or just had a baby, or just has like some kids that they need help with. And so this is everybody that they need help with. We need to reach out to Ms. Wilson. When you see them stressed out, you see that mom stressed out, you see the kids stressed out, you see them not getting all the resources that they should have, both educationally and or vocationally, emotionally, spiritually. They're not getting what they need, and you see that you are involved in that child's life as a grandparent, as an auntie, as a pastor, or the deacon, whoever you are. You need to reach out to Ms. Wilson, because that's going to be the first step in making sure that that child is going to end up on the right side of the situation. That they're going to get the resources they need. They're going to get the education they need. They're going to be able to break that cycle that you see in that family, because we're going to be about breaking generational cycles that we see in our community, so that we can elevate to the next level where we want to be. And so, that's the most healthiest thing we can do for our community. So, Ms. Wilson, you got anything else you want to tell the people before we go towards the end of our show?
For us, we just want to make sure that you have all the resources that you need. So again, if you want us to come out, talk to you, we can do little play groups for you. You just need to let us know what you need. We will make sure that you get the services you need. Again, like I said, whether it's us or the best fit for you, because it is about you, your child, your family, and making sure that you have what you need to make a strong, resilient, stable family.
There it is. I appreciate you. Always appreciate our conversations and your presentations. Yes. And I think that if we can get the information to more people, yes, we can really start moving in the right direction, and not just spinning our wheels is what we feel like we're doing a lot of times. We can start actually heading a direction to healing, to resilience, to safety, and to a better community. So I want to thank you for the work that you're doing in that community, Ms. Wilson.
Yes, and thank you, State Attorney Bain. We so appreciate you giving us this time, because it is such an important topic, and we appreciate your office and your support.
I appreciate it. You have a great night.
You too. Thank you. All right. Bye.
All right, so we are towards the end of our show. I'm going to give you our motivational minute in a moment, but I want to just again talk about the importance of not just what we just talked about with our two guests, with Mr. Purnell and Ms. Wilson. I want to talk about domestic violence. We are in Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It is October. It is my unit that I have in my office, my domestic violence unit. I call it my homicide prevention unit, because the work they do and the connection with our community partners is an aid and hold to prevent homicides. The education that we're going to do tomorrow from 11:30 to 1 from 11:30 to 1 is for your benefit, is for the community's benefit. Come out, come by the courthouse. It's a big old building, the tallest building downtown. Can't miss it. It's 425 North Orange Ave. Come out, get those resources. Come out, protect your families, protect your moms, protect your brothers, protect your sisters, your niece, your siblings. We know that something's happening. We know that somebody is getting abused. We need to act. We need to act quickly and strategically, and make sure that we are protecting the people in our lives. Like today was my fourth funeral involving a homicide involving a law enforcement officer, and again, it's a domestic violence homicide. And so we need to do all we can to make sure that we are providing for our community. All right, so let's wrap it up in our last minute. Again, our motivational minute. Discipline. We talked about it just now with Wilson, but discipline is what builds character. It gets you from point A to point B. You can't get anywhere unless you're going to be disciplined in how you approach that that target, that goal, you have to discipline yourself. And discipline, people think about discipline as like a punishment, as something that's wrong. Is what it says, the rod and the staff. Those things are supposed to guide you, keep you in line, like what shepherds do for the flock, so that the flock can get from one place to the other without being harmed. And so you have to be disciplined in how you approach everything you do in your life. If you want to be successful, you have to do that with discipline. And with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I hope to see you tomorrow in the courtyard here at the courthouse. And I hope you all have a blessed day.
You've been listening to Community Conversations with State Attorney Bain. Join us again next Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. for another episode. Looking for real talk on the criminal justice system and how we can work together to make our community